From the heart of London's twilight comes another adventure in the case files of Maud West, Private Enquirer. Tonight's episode, The Fortune Teller of Belgravia, a tale of whispers and candlelight, where grief becomes currency and illusion hides a crime. When the spirits speak Maud West's own name, the city's most discreet detective must match deception with deception to uncover the living hand behind the voice of the dead. The Fortune Teller of Belgravia begins now.
Each townhouse stands like a widow at her husband's grave, perfectly composed and utterly haunted. Lady Pennington's residence was no exception. 5 stories of grief in good taste. Her late husband, financier, philanthropist, and habitual adulterer, still hung in oil above the stairwell, glowering down as though death had only improved his moral authority. A footman, pale and silent, took my cloak and guided me to the drawing room, where the living planned to converse with the dead. The room was dressed for theatre, velvet curtains strangling the gaslight, mirrors veiled in gauze, candles trembling in silver holders. At the centre stood a table, draped in black satin trimmed with tassels that stirred when anyone breathed. On it rested a crystal globe so large it seemed to have swallowed the moon. 6 guests waited, widows mostly, their jewels whispering secrets under the candles. At the head of the table stood the medium, Mr. Alaric Duvall, consultant in matters spiritual, though his eyes suggested consultant in matters financial might be nearer the mark. Silver cuffs, powdered face, smile like polished bone. He greeted me smoothly, asking who he had the pleasure of addressing. I told him Miss West. Observer, if the spirits permit. He bowed, too low for sincerity. Observers, I've found, are rarely welcome where deceit is a trade. Miss Caldwell had arranged my invitation through the sort of chain that makes investigation look like curiosity. 3 women had attended these séances and left convinced their husbands spoke through the veil, until letters arrived, intimate, accusatory, and very expensive to ignore. Someone had turned grief into an enterprise. Hence, me. The woman they summon when their ghosts start sending invoices. A detective in borrowed pearls chasing phantoms made of ink and gilt. Belgravia pretends its shadows don't exist, but I've learned the shadows there pay best. So I came, not to speak with the departed, but to listen to the living. Duvall raised his hands. Rings caught the candlelight like tiny eyes. He intoned that the veil was thinning, that the departed wished to speak. The table quivered. Someone gasped. A draught brushed my neck. Windows shut tight. Yet something moved. Then a voice. Female. Close. Unmistakable. Whispered my name. Maud West. Every candle bent toward me, flames craning like witnesses. No one here knew my name. Not Duvall, not the widows, not even the servants. The air thickened with perfume and fear. Duvall murmured calmly that the spirits speak only to those they recognize. I smiled thinly and thought, the living are far more dangerous when they recognize you. He watched me across the candlelight, eyes bright with triumph. The séance had begun, but the real performance was his.
When dawn breaks over Bloomsbury, the ghosts of Belgravia give way to the hum of investigation. But for Maud West, last night's whisper still echoes, a name and a mystery she cannot ignore.
Morning always looks different after a night spent with ghosts. Bloomsbury was washed clean and half awake, its rooftops glistening under a reluctant sun. Miss Caldwell had already conquered the day, spectacles low, pen high. order restored. She said I looked as though I'd slept in a tomb. I told her she wasn't far wrong. Over tea, I described Duvall's séance. The draped mirrors, the counterfeit grief, the voice that spoke my name. She asked whether anyone there could have known me. I said only if they'd made a hobby of crime reports. We examined the blackmail letters. Fine handwriting, educated malice, too personal for hired help. This was art, not accounting. When she asked what I meant to do, I told her that if Duvall wished to conjure ghosts, I would give him a rival spirit to fear. I would become Madame Celestine. Caldwell sighed. The sigh of women who know resistance is futile, and went to fetch the tea strainer.
From the comfort of her office to the candlelight of intrigue, Maud West prepares her next disguise. Tonight she trades her detective's pen for a crystal ball, and the hunt for truth begins behind the mask of Madame Celestine.
Belgravia at night is all perfume and pretense. Perfect for ghosts and liars, Caldwell and I rented a discreet townhouse off Eaton Place under the name Madame Celestine. The landlady didn't blink. She'd seen stranger tenants and cheaper miracles. Caldwell asked how one finds clients for an imaginary mystic. I told her. The same way London sells every secret. Make people think they shouldn't know about it. Within an hour, she'd sent anonymous notes to half the district. A French widow of extraordinary gift. Her sittings private. Her results miraculous. Her discretion absolute. By tea time, half of Belgravia was whispering that a duchess had consulted her. By supper, invitations were arriving. At 8, the first guests stepped through the fog. 3 women wrapped in grief and silk. They entered quietly, their grief well-dressed and obedient. To them, I was already Madame Celestine. They took their seats in silence. Belief, I found, begins not with faith, but with atmosphere. The lights dimmed. The incense curled. Just as I was about to summon a convenient ancestor, a shadow moved behind the curtain. Tall, deliberate. The room had gone still. Too still. The widows watched the crystal with rapt attention, waiting for the next whisper from the beyond. Even the gaslight seemed to hold its breath. Then, 3 deliberate knocks. Not timid, not hesitant. The kind of knock that knows it belongs everywhere it goes. At first, I thought it might be a late guest, until I heard the rhythm of it. No apology, no uncertainty, just ownership. Miss Caldwell froze behind the screen, one hand over the phonograph switch. I didn't need her to say a word. I could feel the question pulsing from her direction. The door opened a fraction, and a man's voice drifted through. Smooth, educated, threaded with mockery. He spoke as though addressing an audience he already owned. Madame Celestine, I trust the spirits won't mind one more among the living. I didn't have to see him to know. There's a particular confidence that only comes from fraudulence polished to perfection. The scent of expensive cologne confirmed it before his name did. Duvall! He stepped inside, the candlelight painting his face in warm deceit. He smiled, the sort of smile that could sell salvation to sinners, and said he hoped Madame Celestine would forgive the intrusion. He was, he assured me, merely curious about the competition. I smiled back, slow as a curtain lowering at the end of an act. Curiosity, I told him, is the first step toward confession. That was the moment the séance truly began. Not between the living and the dead, but between 2 performers, each determined to steal the other's applause.
The candles burn low and the spirits draw close. But when illusion meets illusion, who commands the room? The answer waits, along with an unexpected visitor.
He entered like a man expecting applause. Duvall removed his gloves one finger at a time and said he hoped he wasn't intruding. I told him he was, but some spirits require disturbance. He laughed, and the widows sighed in relief. Miss Caldwell took his coat while I watched him circle the table, admiring my props like a thief revisiting stolen goods. He said we were alike. I told him I'd take that as an insult later. The séance began. Hands joined, voices hushed. I whispered of gentle spirits. He murmured that perhaps they came for me. Then the crystal misted, breathing on its own, and a voice spoke. Maud West. You left him. Your brother. The air froze. The words cut clean as glass. No trick of ours, no device. Just truth I'd buried years ago. Duvall's eyes gleamed. He said the spirits rarely lie. I ended the séance. When the guests had gone, he told me grief makes excellent bait, with a slight smirk, then left his card on the table and disappeared into the fog.
A voice from the past has shaken the unshakable Maud West. Now, as the night deepens, she turns from performance to pursuit, determined to unmask the living ghost behind the séance.
Miss Caldwell said he'd left without touching a thing. I told her he'd touched the air. Searching the room, I found a loose brick behind the hearth. Inside it, a vent leading to the house next door. Through it came whispers, names, sums, laughter. Duvall's accomplices turning confession into currency. We listened until disgust outweighed curiosity. Then I saw it. A scrap of newspaper wedged behind the vent grill, pinned with a rusted tack. Not an accident. A clipping from an old inquest column. My own name circled neatly in red pencil. Beside it, in a careful masculine hand, the words, personal leverage. Use with care. So that's how the spirits found their vocabulary. No séance, no sorcery. Just research and cruel curiosity. The dead hadn't spoken, only the living and the clever. Caldwell called it ghastly. I called it useful. Caldwell fetched stationery. Heavy cream paper, the kind that smells faintly of debt and diplomacy. If Duvall wanted theatre, I'd send him an invitation worthy of the role. I began simply, My dear Mr. Duvall, I find imitation to be the sincerest form of flattery, particularly when it pays so well. I smiled and let the ink dry a heartbeat longer before continuing. You and I appear to share an audience, though perhaps not an approach. You prefer spirits that tremble and weep. Mine tend to talk back. Still, there is profit in cooperation. Might we combine talents for a single evening? Your circle, my parlour, and a clientele willing to pay handsomely for authenticity? I signed it Madame Celestine, of course, never Maud West. He'd know the handwriting anyway. Vanity keeps souvenirs. And at the bottom, just one final line, a whisper between professionals. The spirits suggest Thursday. Shall we let them choose the hour? The bait was profit, the hook was pride, and if I knew men like Duvall, and I do, he'd bite before the wax cooled. By morning, the letter was on its way, and the city had one more secret travelling by post.
A letter sealed in wax and baited with pride now moves through London's midnight post. Before the ink has cooled, its message will find its mark, and Maud West will face the man who traffics in other people's ghosts.
The letter took less than a day to do its work. Men like Duvall never resist a stage built in their honour. By noon, a reply arrived. unsigned, naturally, but the perfume of arrogance was unmistakable. He proposed a demonstration to astonish even the skeptical. I proposed to end it. So I let him choose the hour, the house, and the audience. All that remained was to step into the part he'd written for me and rewrite the ending. He came exactly on time. Vanity, after all, never misses an appointment. Lady Pennington's drawing room gleamed once more. Candles, curtains, and a circle of believers. Duvall began with his usual flourish. I interrupted with questions the dead hadn't rehearsed. When the names of his victims appeared, ink rising through the satin tablecloth, panic did the rest. He lunged for the evidence. The table overturned. Flames kissed the carpet. Caldwell burst in to smother the fire. Duvall ran, and I followed. Through servants' halls, and into fog thick as velvet. We met at the iron fire escape. He laughed and said I should thank him for making me famous. I told him I preferred my reputation earned. Then the railing gave way. A cry, a fall, and Belgravia was quiet again. By dawn, the widows were safe, the letters gone, and the papers would call it an unfortunate accident. London loves its tragedies neat.
The chase through Belgravia's mist has ended in silence. But for Maud West, every ending is only an echo until the firelight brings her thoughts and the truth back into focus.
Some cases end with applause, others with silence. This one ended somewhere in between. Miss Caldwell dozed beside the fire, spectacles askew, pen still in hand. We'd turned ghosts back into people. It should have felt finished. But Duvall's death had tidied nothing. Belgravia would mourn its scandal, then host another. The widows would forget his voice, but not the comfort they brought. I watched the firelight glint through a glass paperweight. Round, clear, deceptive. Light bends easily, and so do people. Perhaps truth is only the angle from which you choose to see it. I thought of my brother, and of all the names the world mistakes for closure. The spirits rarely lie. It's the living who need practice. Until the next inquiry, I remain. Maud West, private inquirer, amateur philosopher, and reluctant optimist.
You've been listening to the case files of Maud West, private inquirer. Tonight's story, The Fortune Teller of Belgravia. Join us next time when Maud West faces a new deception in the glittering world of London's gentlemen's clubs.